This week on Indie Miners, a special celebration, 25 years of the Verve's Urban Hymns. We take a deep dive into what makes this one of the greatest albums of the 1990s. Let's fucking have it!
Hello and welcome to Indie Miners. Today, it's been 25 years since Urban Hymns has been released by the Verve. Very interested to get stuck into that and really consider as to what makes it such a classic. Al, I know you've been looking forward to this one for quite a while. Give us a rundown.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, it's 25 years since I purchased this album. Many listens later, we celebrate what I believe to be one of the classic albums from the 1990s. So, BJ, going back 25 years, Richard Ashcroft and the Verve created this album on the back of what was a hectic tour previously in 96/97 in America, and as well as, of course, releasing and recording A Northern Soul, which is one of their absolute classic albums previously to Urban Hymns. Basically, in a nutshell, BJ, Urban Hymns is an album where Richard Ashcroft took himself off to the West Country in England and with an acoustic guitar and armed with a dictaphone, started to lay down some tracks which was to become the classic Urban Hymns. To the point upon release, the drummer at the time, Nick McCabe, who had quit the band, had promised he was convinced by Richard Ashcroft to rejoin the band after Ashcroft basically said, we're doing it with the Verve and we're not doing any changes there. And Nick McCabe rejoined the band and they recorded and released in 1997. It went on to be a number one selling album worldwide, ended up knocking off Be Here Now by the Oasis Boys in 1997. And ever since then, it's been one of my absolute favourite albums of all time, BJ. I'm going to throw it over to you for your initial reactions. I don't know if you're a big fan in the day, mate. What are your thoughts 25 years on?
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. I think part of it was just the reaction to Bittersweet Symphony. I think also, finding out that they got done for plagiarism, I sort of thought, look, I'm not going to try and invest a lot of time into that band. But listening to it before, I probably made a little bit of a mistake in that. I actually enjoyed listening to it. Look, in particular, I thought, definitely came out of the blocks quite well. The first 5 or 6 tracks are really cracking. The Rolling People is probably my favourite song, actually, out of the whole album, which probably excludes the ones that are much more famous, if that makes sense. I did think that I can't put a finger on it, but I probably didn't enjoy the second half of the album quite as much for some reason, and maybe it did drag on a little bit. So there was bits that I thought were certainly top notch and very exciting and new for the time it did come out, but it wouldn't be considered to me to be a 5-star classic, if that makes sense. But I certainly recommend people to still check it out. It's very, very good in any regard. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. Hopefully that's no real slight. My favourite track off the album is The Rolling People. Al, I'm sure you've got a different point of view. I think this is one of your favourite albums of all time.
Yeah, it is, mate. And there's a reason why I'm going to put it in the top 3 albums of the 1990s, and we'll get to that in a moment. But to me, the tracks that stand out here, of course, are the singles. Sonnet, which wasn't meant to be a single initially. It was the 4th release off the album. The band didn't actually agree to release it, but ended up doing really well off the backs of the other singles, Bittersweet Symphony, The Drugs Don't Work, and Lucky Man, which is one of the highlights towards the end of the album there. The reason why I think it's a classic album 25 years later, and I'm going to put these 3 albums in this order. I think OK Computer would be in my top 3. And the reason for that is it was just so original at the time. There was just nothing else like it. It was just game-changing. And I believe next year is the 25-year anniversary of that album, but I could be wrong. Number 2 would be the Verve's Urban Hymns. And this is coming off the back of the pressures of the band at the time. As Richard Ashcroft has come out in many interviews back in the early 2010s, just saying the band was just under incredible pressure, and to produce such a high quality album which I believe from start to finish is absolutely fantastic and takes you on this absolute journey of Richard Ashcroft's singing and writing abilities, as well as the other band members. It only comes in second to me, with the number one being the Manic Street Preachers releasing Everything Must Go a few years earlier to this, coming off the back of losing Richard Edwards from their band and for him never to be found. So that is the reason I believe 25 years on, this is a classic album and probably will remain to be a classic album in another 25 years' time. I mean, in terms of the Bittersweet Symphony, the issues they had with the Rolling Stones at the time, and the manager, what was the manager's name, Beach?
It was Alan Klein. So he's their old manager from the 60s, so had control a lot of the Stones recordings, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, he could just go get fucked for all I care, mate. I mean, Bittersweet Symphony has over 380 million views on YouTube. There's a reason why. It's an absolute classic, iconic song. And from the moment he struts out walking down the street, and the re-release version's even better. He's got blood on his face and all this kind of stuff. And it's just an iconic album, mate. I don't know what else to say. It's a 5 stars from me. I'm sorry if I've babbled on a bit, mate, but it's really, really enjoyable to see that 25 years has gone and it's still as enjoyable from my point of view from start to finish. And I'm interested to see people watching the video what their thoughts are 25 years on.
Absolutely love it, Al. So that is the review or our reflection of the album HYMNS 25 years after its release. That wraps up another episode of Indie Miners. Please look to subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, and let us know if there's an album you would like us to look at. So until next time, bye for now, and thank you for watching.